The Sophomore Jinx by Maninder Kaur. The Sophomore Jinx is a phenomenon in which first-year performance of athletes is exceptionally well, followed by significantly worse performance in the second year. This term is majorly used for sports, and in baseball, sophomore jinx refers to the belief that rookies' second-year performance will not be as good as the first year. To test this phenomenon, we are using the Major League Baseball Rookie of the Year data, and we will compare rookie and the sophomore year performance statistics for players in both the American and the National League. So to test the sophomore jinx, we will use the performance statistics for non-pitchers based on their batting average and the slugging average. Batting average is the fraction of the players at bats that were successful, and slugging average is the ratio of the total bases to at bats. For pitchers, we will test for earned run average, which is the average number of the runs a pitcher yielded to the opposing team. So lower the ERA, better is the performance. For all these variables, we will test whether batting averages, slugging averages, and the earned run averages are better in the first year and worse in the second year. So we have followed a stepwise process for hypothesis test. We first consider the null hypothesis that the sophomore jinx is not real. So for non-pitchers, it means that the averages for rookies of the year are same for rookie and the sophomore year. And the null hypothesis says that there is sophomore jinx, and the batting average of the rookies are better in first year and worse in the second year. For pitchers, earned run average is used, and the null hypothesis says that there is no sophomore jinx, which means earned run average for the rookies is same for the year 1 and year 2. And the alternate hypothesis says that there is sophomore jinx, and the earned run average for the first year is less than that of the second year. So since we are comparing the data of the players for year 1 and year 2, and the year 2 data is also dependent upon the year 1 data for the same player, we are here using the paired t-test. I have assumed here alpha value as 0.05, which means that the possibility of committing error by rejecting true null hypothesis is 5%. In other words, I'm taking the confidence interval as 95%. So for the non-pitchers, if the t observed value is greater than the t critical value, we must reject the null hypothesis. And for the pitchers, if the t observed value is less than the t critical, we must reject the null hypothesis. So pair t-test for the non-pitchers in the American League shows that mean batting average for the first year is 287, and it is greater than the second year value of 267. Similarly is the case for the mean slugging average. It is higher for the first year and than that of the second year. We have run the t-test in the Excel, and have found that t observed value for the batting average is 4.109, which is greater than the t critical value of 1.677, and also the t observed value for slugging average is 4.52, which is also greater than the t critical value of 1.677. So in this case, we must reject the null hypothesis that there is no sophomore jinx. Similarly, I've done for the non-pitchers in the National League, and here also the mean batting average and the mean slugging average is higher for the first year and less for the second year. The t observed value for slugging average is 1.7, which is greater than the t critical value of 1.681. So here also we must reject the null hypothesis. For pitchers in the American League and the National League, mean earned run average for the first year in the American League is 2.69, and that of the second year is 3.341. which means that in the first year, lesser number of runs a pitcher yielded to the opposing team. And in both of the league, we have observed the t observed value is less than that of the t critical value. So here also we must reject the null hypothesis. So we have reached a conclusion that sophomore jinx is real, and the Major League Baseball Rookies of the Year perform exceptionally well during the first year, followed by the relatively worse performance in the second year. So here are a few assumptions and the limitations. For the calculations and for the data, I have assumed that the value of alpha is 0.05. The data is assumed to be normally distributed. Since the data for the year 1 and year 2 are compared for the same players. Here I'm considering that the players are healthy and fit in both the rookie and the sophomore year, and there were no injuries faced by the players during the second year. Also, the mean batting average for non-pitchers is higher for the first year as per the result than that of the second year, but T observed is less than that of the T critical. So here I'm assuming there is some data limitation in this case and considering only slugging average result for the non-pitchers. Also, there are some limitations to the result. Low batting and the slugging average in the second year doesn't mean that all rookies perform bad in their second year. There is a possibility that some of the rookies performed really well during the second year, and some of them had done extremely bad in the second year. So because of that, the batting and the slugging average in the second year is low. It is possible that pitchers may have studied the playing style of the batters during the first year and took advantage of the same in the second year. And the another limitation is regression toward the mean, which means that if a variable is extreme on its first measurement, it will tend to be closer to the average on its second measurement. So it is possible that after performing exceptionally well, players perform closer to their career average performance during the second year. The sophomore jinx in business. Many times new employees enter the workplace during the first year aggressive and motivated, and then year 2 comes along and they ease their foot off the pedal, slow down and hit a lull. The blog talks about 6 ways to beat sophomore slump, such as schedule FaceTime, move desk, mix up mundane, offer training, celebrate small wins and reevaluate. Also, these days we are seeing sophomore slump in the startup business. And there are few things which an entrepreneur should consider to avoid the sophomore slump. Niching down is one of them, means that cutting down the target market to the point where you can be number 1 and number 2 in first 6 months. There is also a study done by the Boston Consulting Group and Spencer Stuart on into the fortunes of almost 400 new S&P 500 CEOs based in the United States, because these days the proportion of the CEOs who leave office for year 2 performance reasons is strikingly high, and they have aimed to establish the factors behind failing and excelling during this sophomore phase. Here are some references, and that's all about the sophomore jinx. Thank you.